Alright, so there are many different versions of GeoGebra at this point. They all are based in the same thing, but the way that you click on which option you want may give you more or fewer tools at one given time. So you have to choose which option you want, and you can do almost all of it now online using URL, but you can also still download the apps themselves as executable files on your computer and just have the program on your computer as well if you're worried about internet access. So, and again, you can just go to geogebra.org and do that. But here, I'm just going to go through some of the basics of what you notice if you come into one of the online URL ones. So this one is geogebra.org. It's the classic version. I know it because I've got classic right here, and also after the URL it says /classic. The classic version has all the tools. It has the access to all the things that I may need, including a graphing calculator aspect, the tools and constructions, and the input bar that I can use to make things. So if you want to graph using the graphing calculator, you can. I'm going to close that just to show you a couple of the basic aspects that you do have here. Now with each of these icons, if you click on them, you're going to see that there are multiple options below them. And additionally, if you hover over it, look at the bottom middle of my screen. As I hover, it tells me what that object is and tells me how to do it. So say I want to do a midpoint. It says select 2 points, a segment, circle, or conic. Say I come over here, oh, that's perpendicular lines. It says select position or line, function, or curve. So the directions are actually given if you just hover over it and look at the bottom of your screen. So other aspects, the input bar, if I go to the input bar, I can actually enter just about anything, and there are codes to do aspects, but say I just want to do the equation of line, y equals 2/3 x, and I just push to the right to get it to be right beside it, plus 2. And it graphs the equation of that line. And yeah, I can see the points there where it crosses the x and y axis. Now it doesn't show me those exact points, but I can see them there. If I want my view here to change, I can also click on that icon and you have an option to sort by. So the default is to sort it by the order in which things were constructed, but you can also do it by the type, so that maybe you want to sort it so that it does points, lines, planes, etc. Make it a little bit easier to sort your data, so it's easier to find things as well. Now, say that I don't want this anymore. I can always highlight it, just select it all, and push delete, and it goes away. And see that if you do something it doesn't like, it does get upset. So I can click on the triple bars on the right hand side and click delete. That'll take it away as well. So again, I click on any of these and it gives me all sorts of different options for constructions. I get options to zoom in, zoom out, to move the image. Now the other thing, on the other side, the little triangle circle gives me the option to hide and show the axis. So say I don't want the axes there, I can just hide them. Say I don't want the grid, I can just click on that and I can choose what type of grid I want, or that I want no grid. I'll make the grid come back here. The next one that's helpful is this one looks like a magnet. If I do fixed to grid, say I take and put a point on my grid and say I want to move it, and you can see the order pair is -4, 3. If I click this point and move it around, it only stays on integer values. That's where that fixed to grid option is, which is kind of nice. And here, what happened there is I clicked and drug and it dragged the entire screen. So that's one way you can always move your screen as well. Now say you want to highlight this point, you right click and drag. I right click and drag and I can highlight all sorts of objects, and if I don't want it I can just push delete. Now sometimes you'll do things like maybe I want to create a polygon, but say I don't want the points to show. Well, if I push the delete button, the entire polygon goes away. So I'm going to undo that, Control Z. Instead, what I can do, if you look on the left here, there are little circles. If I click on the circle, that hides the object. It doesn't delete it, it hides it because it's needed for the construction, but it doesn't need to be visible to everyone else. So I could click on the buttons and make it hide or come back. Maybe I don't want these segments. I can do the same thing there, hide, or I can make them come back. Now, you see the segments also are labeled. Sometimes that can be annoying, so what you can do is right click and there's that show label and you can make the labels disappear. Another option you can do is you can come up to the horizontal triple bars and you can go to your settings, and right there at labeling I can change it to no new objects or new points only. The automatic is pretty much anything that's created gets labeled. I often will do new points only or no new objects because I often don't want segments and other items labeled. So I can also change the font size, make it a little bit bigger, easier to see, so that it's nice to be able to see those points a little bit easier. And I can save those settings. And I'm going to close that. And from there, a lot of it comes down to just taking time to play with it. And again, if you flip to a different view, some of these options are going to change. And so it's important to pay attention to that. Just real quick, as one last aspect, if I go to the geometry view, what you see here is all that input bar and whatnot disappeared. And now I just have my tools up at the top to do basic geometry constructions. So again, if you want those perspectives back, you can come over here and you can go back and change them from one to the other. And you can also add specific views if you want by clicking the view button. Say I want the input bar. I can just click algebra. Now I have my input bar while I'm in geometry. The other thing I could do is if I really don't want to be in a specific one, like you see up here, it now says classic/geometry. I could just remove the geometry and push enter, and it's okay, I'm going to lose this, but now right back to the classic model. And if I wanted to, say I wanted one of the other ones, maybe I do want to be in the geometry, or maybe I want to be in the graphing, and it takes me to the graphing calculator, so I can just change it based on the name of what I want. So play with it, just try out the different ideas. Each of them does everything a little bit differently, but you can always view and access all the aspects. It just takes a few more minutes sometimes.